those questions during this session. We want to collect them at the passport table because then we will have them to also share with our guests when they speak. Speaking of passports, everyone should have one of these. All of our wonderful exhibitors all have little dots. And so if you fill in all the little dots and you turn in your passport card, put your name on it so we know who you are, you will be eligible for a door prize. But we hope that you will participate in that, and please go around and say hello to all of our exhibitors. Let's see. The HD Reach table is out front where you came in. That's where you turn in the passports. Raffles. Okay, we have wonderful, wonderful raffles. We had so many raffles, we had to spread them out on the counter. So, you get a raffle ticket. It's 2 for $5, 6 for $10, or the best deal of the day is one of these blue sheets. There are 26 raffle tickets on this sheet for $20. Definitely the way to go. And so we have multiple raffle prizes, buckets. You pick where you want your raffle ticket to go in the bucket. And then we will be drawing those prizes at 3 o'clock. You have to be present, so that's our way to get you to stay all the way to the end of the day. But raffle prizes are right out front. Sorry, I keep moving the mic and I keep fading away. Also, we have this very fun banner. It's actually out here. It's attached to the glass wall. We have a banner that we would like all of you to sign as our HD heroes. You can sign in memory, you can sign for somebody, you can sign for yourself, you can put your handprint, you can just put your name, you can just put your initials. But we hope to carry this banner with us as we go to events and have all of you. There's Sharpie markers on a little table right there, so you can make sure you sign our banner. Brandy, is Brandy in here? Brandy's not. Brandy's the wonderful staff member that I work with that you met at the HD Reach table when you checked in. She's going to be wearing a sunflower if she's not already. And so if any of you at any point in time during the day feel the need for some added support or just want to sit and talk with somebody, Brandy is the person that you want to talk with. She has red hair, lovely. She'll be wearing a sunflower. And so let me get into some of the important stuff. We have an amazing group of volunteers that helped us put this day together. We have staff. We always thank our staff. Staff work really, really hard. Erica, Brandy, Kelly. But beyond them, we have a whole cadre of volunteers that I would very much like to say thank you to. Thank you for that. They are down in our game over area. They're in our childcare area. They're staffing all of the tables that are out there. They helped us set up last night. They'll help us break down this afternoon. So thank you so much for all of you and your support. Have several board members here, and because I'll forget somebody, I'm just going to say thank you to all of the board members that are here. We really appreciate the support today. So thanks for being here. And of course, our exhibitors and sponsors. They will all have an opportunity to introduce themselves to you later on. But this day doesn't happen without their support, and so we're very grateful. Neurocrine Biosciences is our presenting sponsor today, but we have sponsors from a variety of different pharmas, and we're just grateful for everyone's presence, sharing their knowledge and their information with us. And also our additional advocacy groups that are also here, right? We tend to think that this is HD Reach's Education Day, but all of the other advocacy groups are here, and we're really grateful for their support. And childcare, I don't see any little people, but if your little person is sitting with you and they get antsy or you want them to go into our childcare area, 2 hallways over, we have a childcare area for our young kids. We also have the Game Over area. If any of you, well, whether you're young or young at heart, you can go and check out Game Over. That would be an awesome thing, too. We're grateful for the volunteers that are in there. And, donation room. Almost forgot that one. Second hallway. We have a donation room from the Boloskis. Sorry, I knew I was going to do it. Helen Boloski passed away a couple of days ago. And her family is here. They are a great, Erica's staff person, but his random family that are here, like they're all here. And we're very grateful for their support. But she had a lot of things that they have brought to offer in our donation room. I asked Erica a little bit about her grandma, and so she loved to crochet. So there are some lap blankets in there. And just a very gentle and joyful person, and we are grateful for her donations. All of you are invited to go into the donation room. You can pick out something that you'd like if you want, if you feel you need that. There's little stickies in there. You don't have to carry it around with you all day. You just put your name on it, mark it, and then go back at the end of the day and pick it up. So we thank you for that. So I think that's it. That's all the business. Now we get to our keynote speaker, who's sitting right here. I'm going to put all this down because I'm going to do a brief introduction for Patty Conlon, who we're very grateful for that you are here. Patty earned her Bachelor's of Science in Occupational Therapy from the University of Pittsburgh in 1993 and has worked in adult neurorehabilitation throughout much of her career. She shifted her career focus to Huntington's research when her husband, Rusty, was diagnosed and eventually passed from HD. Patty has been the primary clinical research coordinator for Huntington's disease studies at the University of Pittsburgh since 2016. She applies much of her life experience as a clinician, family caregiver, and now research coordinator to her role at UPMC, and as a result, has become a vital and integral part of the clinical research team. Patty has coordinated 8 observational and clinical studies under the direction of Dr. Valerie Suski. Patty is an active member of the Huntington Study Group, who's also here, thank you, sitting on their member education and executive coordinating councils. She also participates in presentations for the Western Pennsylvania chapter of the Huntington's Disease Society of America, who is also here, support groups, COE education days, HDSA National Youth Alliance retreat, and Help for HD, and hype events. I haven't made it to a hype event. I hear they're very fun. What a party, Patty says. Patty says her journey with HD has taken me through many challenges, years of upheaval, confusion, questions, redirection, laughter, tears, and eventual enlightenment. Through it all, she came to find that she had the skills to make it through as long as I tried to focus on solutions rather than problems, on gains rather than losses, and to look to the community I have found for strength, which means all of you. What was once a fight for my husband is now a fight for my kids and future family and all the families I have met along the way. We are grateful to have Patty with us today as we all reach for the future. Thank you.
Am I on and not feeding back? There we go. There we go. Thank you very much, Betsy. Well, she had quite an introduction, so I feel I don't even need to tell my story now. Anybody have any questions? My journey with Huntington's has taken me through quite a few different roles, and I am honored and excited. Now they can't see me. There we go. It's all about you. So, I have one request before we start. Oh, this isn't forwarding. There we go. We have a thing that we do at our Center of Excellence. We made, no, oh. Ah, turn it on. There, that works. So we have something that we do at our Center of Excellence. We send this out on vacations, on travels, to conferences, anyone who wants to spread the word about Cure HD. So before I get started, I'm going to have my handsome son here take a selfie that I did come to North Carolina for Reach, and okay, Zach, they're all waiting. There we go. So if anybody wants to get a group picture afterwards, we can do that as well. So my talk today is finding hope in what we can control. And I think that what we all face in life, and I can't believe that anyone, where is he? There he is again. Okay. I have to keep an eye on you to make sure I don't disappear for you. I think we'd all agree that being faced with a diagnosis of Huntington's in our family can seem like the largest adversity that we might have to face. But it's in how you face that adversity and how you work your way through it that can help you emerge on the other side with acceptance and knowledge of the challenges that it has presented. I'm going to go to this side. So I think everyone's familiar with the Serenity Prayer, and it says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And we know that this saying has quite a meaning for us when we're faced with Huntington's in our family. We can't change it. We can't blink our eyes and make it go away. But what we can do is face the condition with the courage to change our loved one's experience. The Huntington's that a lot of people face these days is not going to be the same experience as our parents and grandparents faced. There are better medications. There's knowledge in the healthcare field about healthy living styles, better nutrition, staying active and exercise to make your progress a little bit better. There's education and support for families to pursue cleaner living strategies, reduce stress in your life. All of these things to try to make this Huntington experience a little better for those family members who have it. There is no cure for Huntington's disease. Yet, says every researcher that I know, but we can treat it with understanding. So today I'm inviting you to join me on our story, my family's story with Huntington's disease. It took a newly formed family from a place of elation and hope for the future to hopelessness, confusion, helplessness, and fear. It took us from being on the verge of divorce to a diagnosis that would wreck my world and my vision for my future. But then it would lead to forgiveness and compassion, ultimately a love that had no bounds. So this is our story. Isn't that a handsome guy? Young couple. And in 1999, I met the love of my life. Rusty was strong, he was intelligent, he was funny, he was driven and family-oriented. It didn't take long for us to decide that he was my person, and we wanted to make a life together. So we decided to move to the same city. We had met through mutual friends. I lived in Pittsburgh at the time, and he had just relocated back to Massachusetts. So he just came back to his hometown. It was my turn to move. So I gathered up my 3 cats. That was me. The woman in her mid-30s living at the end of the street with 3 cats, collecting them. I gathered up my 3 cats and I moved to Massachusetts to start off a new life. And life went quickly for us. In May of 2001, we got married. In May of 2002, we had our first child, this handsome devil right here in the front seat. And in May of 2003, we had our I'm sorry, Megan. In June of 2003, we had our daughter, who is hopefully watching on the live stream. Hi, Megan. I'm sorry, I didn't forget your birthday. And our family was complete. Along the way, we added a dog, added a house, and we were living the dream. Until we weren't. Sometime in mid-2003, let me back up. My husband was a successful businessman. He was a CPA and a corporate accountant. He had just landed at the age of 33, had landed his first corporate controller position. And he was on an all-time high, had his brand new family, had his dream job. And then a few months later, it all came crashing down when he was let go from that position after a series of unforgivable mistakes. My son the other day asked me, what was the mistake? And it was thousands of dollars of mistake. But he persevered. He lost that job, but he started to apply for consulting positions, other short-term positions, and he would get them. And then with each position, something would go wrong. After a few months, he would be let go. And his reasoning for all of this was always somebody else's doing. The company just went in a different direction, or it was a hostile work environment and it just wasn't a good fit for him, or the assignment just ended. And during all of these times when he was going from position to position to position, there was never any indication on his part that he was the source of the failure in doing that. It's as if he wasn't aware of anything he was doing wrong. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? As I'm going through the story of the next upcoming couple years, I'm going to hold my hand up when I can see now some of the things that could be attributed to his Huntington's that was emerging. And I had no idea at the time. So it's hard to pinpoint exactly when the changes started coming. He was released from his company after making a horrible mistake. There was never any reflection of his performance in this revolving door of position after position. He refused to acknowledge his shortcomings, or was he simply unaware of them? There were no new permanent jobs on the horizon, and his demeanor grew darker and more erratic. So I attributed it to stress. He's a young man with a young family. He isn't able to support. This is a highly stressful situation. I'd attribute it to that and nothing else. We sought marriage counseling. The marriage counselor finally said to me, I've never seen anyone like your husband. It's like he's so anxious he can't sit still. And he's not taking any of the responsibility for the problems on his own. He always said that he wasn't the source of our arguments, that it was always my fault. He didn't have a problem with irritability. I was just too good at pushing his buttons. Zach may agree with that, actually. After a while, his anger turned into rage, and rage into violence. And I realized that I could not live with this man. And I certainly couldn't raise my children around him. So we sought a separation, and he was removed from the house. As we were making plans, I was making plans, for a divorce, and we had an active protection from abuse against him. He violated that by showing up at the house, which violated his perimeter. And in Massachusetts, that gives you an automatic 30-day sentence into the Plymouth Correctional Facility. And he was there. That stay was miserable. He wasn't getting some of the medications that he was prescribed. He told me later that the other inmates in that area nicknamed him Twitch. And he spent a lot of time in isolation for his own protection. So that was a miserable experience, and I knew that for him. His diagnosis came after a long and drawn out journey through many physicians. It went through generalized anxiety disorder, explosive personality disorder, depression. He was eventually seen by a neurologist who diagnosed him with Tourette syndrome. And I'm a healthcare worker. And I as I'm listening to this, a friend told me that he was diagnosed with Tourette's. I said, that doesn't make sense. Tourette's doesn't come on in your mid-30s. Tourette's doesn't have the cognitive component that I'm seeing and why he's losing these positions. And that's when the light came on. And I thought, this could be Huntington's. So our next physician to go see, we were referred to a movement disorder specialist. And we were lucky enough to land in the office of Dr. Sam Frank. He was up at Boston University at the time. I'm sure there are many people in the room who are familiar with Sam Frank. He's very well known in the Huntington's community, and I am ever grateful for meeting up with him, because within 20 minutes of sitting in his office, he was able to say with a pretty good amount of certainty, this is Huntington's disease. Rusty was relieved. He finally had something that he could place his symptoms on. He finally had something to help him understand what was going on, because he didn't understand it either, and this was another source of frustration for him. So he was relieved to have a name to put to it. Knowing what little I knew at the time, and actually for healthcare workers, and I was trained as an occupational therapist, I think during the 8 years or so that I was an OT before that, I had seen one Huntington's patient before, and not for a long period of time. And I probably had 1 day worth of Huntington's education during my OT training. But what I did know is the genetic component about it. So while he was relieved, I was devastated. I was hoping for something that could be cut out. Hey, let's give him a brain tumor. We can cut it out and I can have my husband back. Not something that now my children have a 50% risk of inheriting. And the bottom dropped out of my world during that time. After his diagnosis, I did my best to be supportive and a supportive wife. I'm gonna put these down. We were separated at the time. I was in a small apartment with the kids because the house had gone on the market. We couldn't afford that anymore. He was staying down at his uncle's house. And a few months later, he came to my door, begging, saying, you can't leave me alone with this diagnosis. You can't leave me out there all on my own. And we talked about it for a long time. And it was a leap of faith to bring him back into the house. But I put some ground rules down. You have to be compliant with your medications. You have to listen to all of the suggestions or the recommendations that Dr. Frank gives you. And I'm in charge of the money, and I'm in charge of disciplining the kids. And I thought with those rules, I had it all under control. And we went on for a couple more months, and it was good. Until it wasn't. In February 2009, I'm not going to go into the details of what transpired between us, but despite all of my efforts to try to keep him balanced and in good behavior, HD reared its ugly head again. This time, the charges were looking towards a prison term. So I went to the courthouse. I spoke to everyone that I could. I knew that this was because of his Huntington's. And prison was not good the first time around. It's not going to be good the second time around, especially if it's an extended stay. And that's not what he needed. He needed to be someplace safe. He needed to be someplace where he would get medication. He would get intervention. So I advocated and spoke to everyone that I could at that courthouse, letting them know that even as the victim, I don't think he needs prison. I spoke to the prosecuting attorneys. I spoke to the defending attorney. There was a court caseworker that I was able to speak to. I guess that was where my journey with HD advocacy started. And I managed, success of success, I managed to get my husband committed. He was sentenced to a year in the Taunton State Hospital. In Massachusetts, they still had state hospitals. I'm not sure about your state. Pennsylvania, we don't have long-term state hospitals for, I hate to say it, the criminally insane. But I knew he was in a safe place where he wouldn't be able to hurt himself. Less likely. He wouldn't be able to hurt anyone else. He would be compliant with his medications, and he would be getting some of the treatment, some of the therapy that he needed to come to the realization that yes, you have a name to place to this, Huntington's disease. But with that comes your responsibility to be aware of those symptoms. So I guess in that respect, I consider myself lucky that there were a lot of healthcare workers during that very, very difficult phase of when my person didn't understand what was happening and wasn't acknowledging what he was doing. That anosognosia that we all hear about. And when the caregivers have the most difficult time actually helping their people because they're not listening or they're refusing that they have any problems. I was very fortunate that someone did that for me. A year later, his time came to an end. Actually, I got ahead of myself. During that time, I needed to face now on my children, who were 5 and 6 at that point. I needed to face on my children to help them understand what's going on with our family and to talk with them about Huntington's disease. Holy cow. I've been skipping over my takeaways. You can tell I went a little off script, can't you? So don't fault yourself for not recognizing those early symptoms. They come on very gradually. And watching someone very gradually or very slowly start to develop symptoms, it's just like watching your children grow. You don't see it happening day to day. Or unfortunately, in some cases, watching the weight creep on over a period of time until one day you get on the scale and you say, holy crap, where did those 20 pounds come from? It's never happened to me. As far as having my husband committed, sometimes the most difficult decision is what's best and what's needed at that time. With Huntington's, we can't speak in absolute terms, such as always or never. We can't speak in terms of, or we can't make promises like, I will always take care of you in this home. I will never have you placed. I will always follow what you want me to do with your medical care. We can't speak in those terms because at some point they need to trust us as a caregiver to say, I'm doing what's best for you, and you have to trust that I'm on your team and I'm doing what's best for you. And sometimes that decision is a very difficult decision. I don't wear it with a badge of honor that I had my husband committed, but I saved him from prison. And at that time, that was what we needed. So talking to my kids, look at that, 5 and 6-year-olds. You can keep Huntington's from becoming a taboo topic by talking about it openly. And I know that's something that in some families that's becoming a very new concept. A lot of families kept Huntington's a secret for many years. Let's just not talk about it and it won't happen. Or if it's happening in the family, let's not worry the kids about it. They don't need to know what's happening here. But your kids know. Kids are very observant. They'll have questions. Why is Daddy acting so funny? Why is Daddy behaving like that? How come my dad doesn't go to work like other kids' dads do? Why did Daddy have to go away? And it's only through allowing them to answer those questions that you'll raise them in an atmosphere where they feel comfortable talking about Huntington's disease. So what I explained to my children when my husband was early symptomatic was, Daddy has a condition called Huntington's disease. We named it. And it makes him think funny things. Or sometimes it might make him do bad things. But he's still your dad. And he's still the same person inside. We didn't get into the genetics of it. 5 and 6, they're not going to understand that or need to know that. But what I did was I left that door open. I said, anytime you have any question about Huntington's disease, you come to me and you ask me. And what I would do, or the promise that I made to myself, was I would answer it honestly and openly as I can, but in terms that their developmental age could understand. And that's how we got them. We got them educated to Huntington's. So you can keep it from becoming taboo. The other thing that we worked very hard, or at that point I worked very hard at, is preserving their relationship with their dad. Daddy has Huntington's, and he sometimes does mean things. But he's still your dad, and he's not a bad person, and we will always love him. He's always a member of our family. I made efforts to preserve their relationship with them. While he was away at the hospital, he was allowed to have his laptop, which was surprising, but a saving grace. And he had a private room at the hospital. So I had the kids Skype with him every night. And they could tell him what they were doing with their days, or show them their latest webkins, or the different things that they were getting into. I wasn't a part of these Skype calls. I would get it set up for them, but I still needed that distance. I still needed to work through some of my own things. But what I had to do was realize that my relationship and my difficulties with my husband because of his Huntington's were different than what my children were experiencing. And they still had a relationship with their dad that needed to be preserved. So the big thing is you need to leave the door open. Make your kids comfortable to ask about Huntington's and comfortable to have those conversations. And I think for the whole, we did okay. Zach has grown to be active with the NYA. He's gone to a couple NYA retreats, attended NYA Day at convention. He went to HDO camp. Is Jenna in here? My son was actually lost at HDO camp. It was the first night they had all arrived, and everyone was in the common room having a grand old time. Someone turned around and said, "Where's Zach?" And the counselors all started searching the grounds. Oh, Erica, you were there? Erica can vouch. The counselors all started searching the grounds, trying to find Zach, and someone said, "Did you check his cabin?" "Yeah, we checked his cabin, he's not in there." Searching the grounds, can't find Zach, thinking, oh my gosh, how am I gonna call Patty and tell her? Hi, Jenna.
Hi, sorry, I heard my name.
Were you there? I was telling about when Zach was lost at HDO camp. And then someone came around again and said, "Did you check his cabin?" They went back and checked his cabin, and there he was, underneath all of his covers, fast asleep. That behavior of sleeping and not being able to wake him up continued through many of his teen years. And I even gave him a wake-up call 3 minutes before his alarm this morning. So during his stay at the state hospital, Rusty eventually did get more privileges. He was able to go outside. He was able to have the family visit him. And through the help of his absolutely wonderful mother and the best mother-in-law in the world, we were able to arrange times to visit him. And the kids had learned to ride their bikes while he was in there, so we took the bikes along with us. And this is them riding the bikes in the parking lot at the hospital while Daddy followed along. And then just getting together for some snacks at the picnic table. And I was able to look at those smiles again and feel for a sec that, okay, we did what was necessary. I kept my kids safe. But look at those smiles. We preserved that. When we went inside, we played a couple games of hangman in the activity room. It's kind of an interesting game to be playing at a state hospital, but we played a game of hangman. Both of the kids, they each took their turn, and both of them chose this phrase: I love Daddy. So I knew that we had done it. We had done okay, preserved his relationship with his family, but got him the help that he needed. And his time there did end up being good. When it was time for him to get out of the state hospital, I still didn't trust bringing him back to our home. The variability of being in a home with small children and a wife that you kind of butted heads before, I was afraid that would bring up some of his prior behaviors. So we didn't accept him right into our house right away. His mother couldn't take him either because she was elderly. So his discharge plan from the hospital was to go to a group home with other elderlies. It was a very loosely scheduled environment where he had a lot of his own say in where he went and what he did. He would walk a mile to Dunkin' every day to get his iced coffee because, being a New Englander, he was addicted. But during that whole time, and that was about 5 months, he never had an incident or never had a behavior. So then we had a couple test drives. His mom brought him to Pittsburgh for a visit, and that went well. The family went on a big family vacation to Disneyland, or Disney World, which, if you want to say unscheduled and unpredictable schedule, that's the day, and exhausting. But we did well. So the kids and I really thought hard, and we took a giant leap of faith again, and we brought him to Pittsburgh with us. Did I mention that I moved back to Pittsburgh during that time? I don't think I did. But we brought him back to live with us again. And I don't know whether it was our time away and the treatment that he got, the medication adjustments that he got. I don't know what it was. I don't know whether it was just progression in his disease and he was at a different stage and behavior wasn't as much of an issue for him. But thank goodness, we never had any altercations again. And we were able to live and finish out his life and his time as a family, just as I had always wanted, but we had made the difficult decision in the middle. So coming to Pittsburgh, we had to find our community. We immediately got involved with the Huntington's community in Pittsburgh. We have a strong chapter, Western Pennsylvania chapter of the HDSA. We have a center of excellence that's led by Dr. Valerie Susky, who Dr. Scott actually trained. And we got involved in anything that we could. We went to the HDSA conventions. I think that was the one in Nashville that had the beautiful big greenhouse in there. And this was my entire family rallying around Rusty at one of the HD races. At that point, he was getting around in his power chair. But my whole family was even able to come and embrace him again and trust that we were at a good place in our family. And I so much appreciate them for that too. Rusty got involved with Dr. Susky's encouragement, got involved in some of the education programs at the University of Pittsburgh. We would talk to up-and-coming medical students about HD. We were on a panel called the Dream Team that just went up in front of people and told our stories. And those medical students said, you know what, if you hadn't come here, we wouldn't have known what Huntington's really looks like and how it impacts families. We even made a documentary through a company. It was called Bench to Bedside. It was never aired in Pittsburgh except for once, so on local Pittsburgh television, so that it could be eligible for an Emmy. And it was nominated for an Emmy. So Dr. Susky and I say that anyone who meets us has the pleasure of meeting an Emmy-nominated reality TV star. That's me. And we did anything that we could to try to get people to understand Huntington's. And that wasn't driven by me. That was driven by this man. He wanted to do anything he could. And I know the audio is not very good on this, but I will wrap it up afterwards too. Well, that audio is really bad. Can we gain it? Oh, sorry. So what he's saying in this thing, she was saying, so did you know you were at risk for Huntington's disease? And his response was, no, it was a mystery to us because I was adopted. So it was a mystery for 6 or 8 months. We didn't know what was going on. That's what he was saying during that part. So let's see if we can. I'm sorry.
It brings me joy to tell that story and let other people know about the situation. It's not dire. Things can be worked out.
Could you make out what he was saying there? He was saying it's the only thing he can do is tell his story. It brings him joy. And he wants people to know that it's not dire and things can be done about this. So that became our new family mission at that time. He was what inspired all of us. So we were a family on the move. Assess each day, take a look at the symptoms you're dealing with, and if he's feeling up to it, get up and go. We had a 10-game plan to the Pirates. Yeah, he did make the conversion from the Red Sox to the Pirates. I think mostly because the Pittsburgh, well, he was always a Red Sox fan, still. But the Pittsburgh tickets were so cheap that he was like, wow, I can get Major League Baseball tickets for $20 in the boxes. So we went to that. We would go down by the river in Pittsburgh. We did a lot of different things. Family on the move. This was in the log jammer at Kennywood. And we were getting him around in a wheelchair on that day. But he really wanted to go on the log jammer with his kids. So we got him down into that log. And I'll tell you, gravity was my friend. It was much easier getting him into the log than getting him back out of the log, trust me. Participating in fundraisers, doing vacations, taking him back up to Cape Cod so that he could do his his love of fishing, and then participating in walks. And one of the things that's so inspiring about this picture is how much the kids enjoyed being part of that process and helping Daddy through that. After he passed, no, I'm not, I'm off. I'm completely off script. After he, oh my gosh. After he passed, that's when I decided that I wanted to continue my work with Huntington's disease. And I had been approached by Dr. Susky to become the occupational therapist for the Center of Excellence program there. And I took her up on that, but then while I was there, I realized that we really needed to get this research program going. So I became part of that, became part of the research program. I took it over, and it's grown by leaps and bounds since that time. I've gone to many conventions. I've joined the Huntington Study Group. Jimmy, can you see that shirt I have on in the center thing? That's with the Harley, yeah, the Harley thing, made by Lyndon Tabor. She makes great tie dyes. And we even got the Cure HD license plate for Pennsylvania, the only one. It's seen better days, but we continue his fight, and that's the important thing. So this was my husband not long before his passing, and I just still hear those words in my head every day. Teaching others about Huntington's is the best way I can help, and it brings me joy. And that's Rusty. So that's what we do, and Zach hasn't changed his shirt since this picture was taken. So I want everyone to put on their thinking caps. How can they turn their Huntington's experience into something productive or into something positive? It's not dire, and we can make it through. What can we do now to change the future for the HD community? And then I come to some suggestions, which you told me going off script has its limits, that I've come to my end. But becoming a mentor. I had mentors along the way to help me through this process. And now, through my connection with the clinic, I'm able to mentor other people in our community and tell other wives and caregivers, no, you're not going crazy. This is what Huntington's brings, and this is how you can get through it. Or this is one suggestion, because it's different for everybody, isn't it? Support the fundraisers. Get out there. And it's not just a matter of raising the money, although that is important, because every organization needs money to do their good work. But getting out there and educating is so important. Advocacy. We've taken the opportunity to work together with the NYA. We've done the March on Washington with our super advocate capes. Do you remember those, Marianne? Join the research. Join the research studies. So for the people in the room who are at risk or who have tested gene positive and maybe early in their disease or already symptomatic, please consider joining research. What we can find out now about Huntington's disease is what's going to help the experience for our generations to come. And Jody has a table out there for Huntington Study Group, has some information about research studies that we are offering or that are being offered around the states. We can both be a resource for anything that you might want to pursue. Attend your support groups, and HD Reach is really a great organization down here. Western Pennsylvania has a bit to learn from you. Attend your support groups, because that's where you might be able to lend a hand to somebody else who's just beginning their journey with HD and give them a piece of information. And I think, Zach, you've even experienced that. Going to NYA Day, and he's already been through the journey of seeing a parent fail, losing a parent. and he might be meeting people this year in Spokane, if he's qualified for the scholarship. He might have that opportunity to take somebody under his wing and say, hey, I've lived through this, and it's okay, and it's not dire. And join in education events like this, or reach out and do your own education, however you can. So those are my takeaways and my experience, and I don't know if I have any time for any questions. Not really. But I will be on the panel. I will be on the panel, and I will be here all day to answer any questions that people might have. So, thank you.
Still not on. Anyway, ooh, look at that. I would like to invite all of our exhibitors, our farmer friends, our other advocacy groups to please come outside and come right here. We're going to do this in an orderly fashion. I'm Presbyterian, so decently in an orderly fashion. So just light up here in the hallway, and you get your 30-second commercial to say, oh, this isn't working. We're going to start our Ask the Expert panel. Is it working? All right, now it's working. 30 seconds. Say hello.
Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Hello. My name is Leslie White. I work at a company called Sage Therapeutics. I'm a social worker by training from the Boston area, originally from Massachusetts, live in New Hampshire. But we are, should I speak a little bit about what we're doing at Sage? So we are looking at cognitive impairment in Huntington's disease. So please stop by our table. Love to talk to you. And I'll pass it to Jenna.
Thanks, Leslie. Hi, everybody. Jenna Heilman, Executive Director with H2YO. We support and educate and empower young people 35 and under impacted by Huntington's disease. As you think about it, there are many different life milestones that happen from adolescence to your awkward teen years to growing in independence to making those life decisions like career choices. And at some point during that journey, you start to become aware of Huntington's disease and have to make some tough choices. So we're there to help them through their journey, and I'm excited to be a part of the panel here in a few minutes.
BJ View, a longtime HC family member. I've been in this community for many years. I remember creating that shirt on my computer as a co-founder of HDO, and recently, 2 years ago, I launched a company called HD Genetics. We offer a new option to undergo genetic testing, all from the comfort of your home. So you can get in touch with our genetic counselor, who's 100% focused on Huntington's disease. You talk to him through the computer and on the phone, and then instead of a blood test, we provide a saliva sample that comes in the mail. Provide your test results all in a very comfort and safe manner. So, look forward to talking to you out there.
Speak louder? Okay. I think I actually was one of those people who found this guy sleeping in his cabin back in the day. I think it was me and Doug, but I know. We're like, where is Zach? No comment on that. Hi, everyone. My name is Seth Rotberg. First and foremost, excited to be here. Been part of the HD community for 15 plus years as an advocate. My mom had HD, but I'm here professionally speaking on behalf of Perlinia. I'm their senior manager of patient advocacy and engagement. We're a small biotech company, late stage programs in Huntington's disease and ALS, focusing on trying to provide a small oral molecule called pridopamine to patients, but it's still under investigation. And if you are interested in learning more, come say hello. I'm also speaking with BJ later on. So here you go, Edgar. No pressure.
That was pretty loud. All right, so hi everyone, my name is Edgar Vega, and I'm the Associate Director of Patient Advocacy for a company called Unicare. And so we are working on a gene therapy that's currently in a phase 1, phase 2 clinical trial. And so if you'd like to learn more, I also have a table in the back. It's the brighter purple, not to be confused with the Pralinia purple. So yeah, but yeah, thank you so much. We're excited to be here.
Hi everyone, I'm Emily Heinz on the patient engagement team at PTC Therapeutics. Like Seth said, I'm so excited to be here today and to spend the day with you all. PTC Therapeutics is based out of New Jersey, and we are also looking into Huntington's disease. So if you have any questions on that, please feel free to find me outside. We also have some resources available for you all. So happy to be here and learn with you all today. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lisa Hale. I'm the Director of Patient Engagement and Advocacy for Teva, and I am super excited to see you all here today. You have filled the room. My task is to be a resource, and all things patients. And I look forward to talking with you guys later today. I will tell you, I have never been told I've been quiet, so this is fabulous. And I look forward to seeing some of you this afternoon as I talk more about Korea. Thank you.
Hi everyone, this is one of my first HD events. I am with Lisa at Teva. I am the medical science liaison. So one of my goals is scientific education, and especially I focus on healthcare professionals. So a lot of movement disorder specialists are familiar with Huntington's disease, but a lot of primary care physicians aren't. So one of my goals is to bring education to a wide range of physicians so that we can have better awareness of Huntington's disease and some of the treatment options.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mackenzie Luxmore, and I am here today representing the North Carolina chapter of the Huntington's Disease Society of America. I'm sure that most of you are familiar with that organization, but it's a non-for-profit that does everything we can to support Huntington's disease families across the country. So if you're interested in some of the resources we have, support groups, opportunities to get involved, just want to learn some more information, please come visit our booth. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to introduce the Huntington Study Group, which is a research organization that's dedicated to Huntington's disease and advancing trials there. It was founded in 1993, and it is an organization of amazing and compassionate doctors and researchers that are dedicated to this cause. So please come out and say hello to us and take some information as well.
Hello, greetings. I am Latorius Adams. I am a case manager at UNC Chapel Hill with our Huntington's Disease Clinic under Dr. Claudia Testa. This is Megan. She is one of our genetic counselors. So we work a lot with Erica and HD Reach as we see families and work with them at our clinic to provide resources, genetic counseling, as well as testing. So thank you so much for being here.
Hey everybody, I'm Allison Allen. I'm one of the social workers and Center of Excellence coordinators over at Duke with Dr. Scott, who was on that side, so it looks like I came around. And we'll have several other folks from our interdisciplinary team later today. We are happy to be a part of your team. If you are looking for care and you're anywhere in this HD spectrum, we would love to partner with you and collaborate with you over at Duke. So please stop by our table if you have any questions. Let us know or find any of us. Thanks for being here today. Thanks to HD Reach.
Hey guys, my name is Dav and I own an insurance agency. I really don't know what to say. I usually let people talk for me. But I guess what we primarily do is we provide some consultation to people that have questions on insurance coverages, what they need to have in place, and pre and post testing. Just provide that advice and a trusted source so that you can talk to someone who's in the community. And oh, hello. Okay. Maybe this is a little bit better. But just providing a trusted resource in the community to be able to ask those questions, because I know sometimes there can be a stigmatism around it, and having someone that you can trust to talk pretty openly about it. So, of course, we were our family is affected by HD as well, so very familiar with it. It's good to see some familiar folks that we've seen around as well, and got to meet some people that we've already had conversations with. But my table's over there. Welcome to talk and have conversations for questions related to insurance and how we can be of service to you guys. So thanks.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Cara Pasquale, and I'm with Neurocrine Biosciences on the Patient Engagement Advocacy team. I think Betsy said Neurocrine's the presenting sponsor for today's event, and we're just so excited to be here and be among the community. I know many of you may not be familiar with Neurocrine, so I'm going to tell you very briefly a little bit about us, but before I do, as I said, it's just really a privilege to be here today. While I'm not personally impacted by HD, I've been coming to HD community events for the last year or so, and I am just in awe of your community, your resiliency, and your willingness and openness to share your stories. And it's just an honor to be in the same room to bear witness to your journeys and walk alongside. So thank you for allowing me to be here. So just a little bit about Neurocrine and our commitment to the HD community. For over 3 decades, Neurocrine has been dedicated to discovering and developing life-changing treatments for debilitating neurological, neuroendocrine, and neuropsychiatric conditions. We are continuously invested in research to understand the biology around neurological conditions and how to bring better treatments forward for communities with few options. We most recently received FDA approval for a treatment option for those living with the challenging effects of chorea, and we are especially grateful for the patients and their families who sacrificed their time to participate in those trials that led to the approval. As Neurocrine looks ahead, we remain dedicated to relentlessly pursuing research around neurological conditions and how to bring better medicines forward. And it's communities like yours that truly inspire us in the work that we do. On behalf of Neurocrine, I want to thank HD Reach for the opportunity to be here today and for putting on such a wonderful event for this community. And once again, thank you for allowing me to be here, and I hope you all enjoy your day.
All right, everybody. We're going to get started with the panel in a few moments, so I'd like to invite our panelists up to the front. And while they're making their way up, just a quick introduction. So my name is Anthony Martinez. I'm the chairman of the board for HD Reach. I've been serving on the board for about 2 years now. I just want to say I'm so excited to see so many familiar faces and so many new faces here today, especially considering the weather. Can't thank you all enough for coming out today. I also want to quickly say, because I don't think we've done it yet, thank you so much to Betsy McFarland, our new executive director. I want to give her another round of applause, please. She's been drinking a little bit from the fire hose over the last couple of months, but obviously her and the team have done an amazing job continuing to build momentum behind the program and serving the North Carolina community so well. So with that, if panelists, you guys want to sit down? I'm sorry, I'm in your way. And to start, we'll do some quick introductions on the panel. So we're going to start over here with Dr. Scott. Oh, 1 second. Okay, awesome. Dr. Scott.
Good morning. I'm Burton Scott. I'm a neurologist over at Duke University at the Center of Excellence there. We have a multidisciplinary clinic that's dedicated to taking care of Huntington's folks and their families. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, Patty said she doesn't want to introduce herself again. So I'm Jody.
They've heard enough.
I'm Jody Goldstein. I'm from the Huntington Study Group. I feel honored to be here with so many wonderful families. The North Carolina area is just incredible. I've been with the Huntington Study Group for 23 years. I've been working with HD families. I started as a coordinator like some of you here, and now I work as the Director of Clinical Operations and helping run studies at the Huntington Study Group.
I also just introduced myself, but just again, Jenna Heilman, Executive Director at HDYO. Excited to represent the global voices of young people impacted by HD.
Hi, I'm Jessica Tate. I'm a neurologist at Wake Forest in Winston-Salem, and I am the primary neurologist in the Huntington's clinic there. I took over from Dr. Francis Walker to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, panelists. I do have a list of questions, and I'll kick us off with one. But obviously, if you have any questions for our panelists, please feel free to raise your hand, and we can pass the mic around. But to start, just given what we were talking about earlier today, I'd like to maybe start with, how do I even get involved in research? How do I start? Any volunteers for this first question?
Call us. Now, usually at your physician's office, your physician will know what research studies are being offered in nearby areas, so you can get some suggestion, hey, what's going on nearby, and find out directly from your physician. There are also some sites online that have a lot of resources for research. The hdsa.org site has the HD Trial Finder. HD Buzz has a listing of a lot of things that are being offered. The best thing to do is just reach out to your closest HD Center of Excellence or HD physician and find out what research is being offered.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you very much. I think also, thanks Patty, what's really important is that finding a trial is not cookie cutter. So not every trial fits every person. So it's very important, as I just mentioned, it's, here in North Carolina, there is a great community, a lot of wonderful doctors and researchers that can help you find a trial near you. Please make sure that you reach out today. Dr. Tate, Dr. Testa, Dr. Scott, and all of their team. Please ask them, come to the Huntington Study Group table as well as HDO. All of us work together. I think that's the one thing that I really want to say. In the HD community, it is so important because all of the advocacy groups, all of our wonderful organizations work together to find and help you with clinical research and care.
I think, too, I want to point out that research isn't just clinical trials, too. There are a lot of great opportunities to participate in observational studies and registries and surveys. Those all play a really crucial role. And I know a lot of you are caregivers, some of you are young people who, and then some people aren't qualified because of the inclusion criteria to participate in some of the trials out there. But please look at things like Enroll HD, different surveys and registries that are out there. With HDYO, we have an international survey series to gain the insight from the whole global community, plus a registry focusing on juvenile HD. And there are a lot of other opportunities out there. So while clinical trials are the thing that we think about and are extremely important, there are also ways to get your toe right into that little pond of research to see what you really want to participate in, even as that first stepping stone. So please consider all different types of research as well.
Yeah, I'd say that's a great point. And in addition to that, organizations like HD Reach, we're constantly looking for feedback from the community to help inform the services and the care navigation that we provide. So, I welcome you all to be proactive, share that feedback with us, and we can incorporate it into our programs in an ongoing way.
I'll just mention that, so at Duke, and probably every clinic that you go to that's doing clinical trials, every time you come to clinic, we're kind of thinking, among the things that we're thinking as we're seeing you is, well, gee, what trial might this person either be interested in or qualify for, or be appropriate for? And so when you come to clinic, we're always thinking about it, along with the other clinical questions, but we're trying to see what you might fit with. And each center might have some additional studies that aren't necessarily nationwide kind of thing. So for example, the Duke ophthalmology folks are doing a study where they're using some fancy eye doctor machine to look at the back of the eye to take pictures of it to try to determine if there's a difference in people with Huntington's and people that don't have it. But it's just an example of a study that's being done that's not a big clinical trial that is developing a new medicine. So what I'm trying to say is, when you come to clinic, we're probably going to ask you if you want to participate in this or that. If we don't, you can certainly mention something that you've heard of that you want an opinion about, and we'll give it to you. But other resources that are great, as has been mentioned, are the HDSA websites, at least as far as starting information, and the Huntington Study Group as well.
Could maybe you speak a little bit to, the broader community and how they can participate in research? So we talked a little bit about it, but if you're gene negative or you're a caregiver, are there ways to support ongoing research, perhaps through being, part of a control group or other ways to support that effort?
You want to start, Dr. Scott, and then I'll jump in.
So everybody can participate in research, pretty much. If you've got Huntington's in your family and you've been tested, you don't have the gene, or you're a candidate for the observational study, enroll study. If you've got Huntington's disease, there are studies that are appropriate for you. But anybody that's got some relationship, is in a Huntington's family, is a potential candidate for some kind of study that might advance knowledge and help with the treatment and care of this illness.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate whoever asked this question, because I did my homework and want to let everyone know, as Dr. Scott said, is participating in a study is not just about participating in a drug study. Jenna said that, Enroll HD, an observational study. That's a study that doesn't have a particular drug that we're studying, but we look at the effects and information that's collected over a period of time. There are roles such as participating on an advisory board. An advisory board is a group of individuals that get together and we sit down with pharmaceutical companies, people who run studies, and we learn about what's important to you, what's important for helping you participate in studies. At the Huntington Study Group, we also have steering committees, and those are individuals that, a small group of individuals that help and assist the researchers with looking at oversight of the study, and we always include an HD family member on the steering committee. Participating as a support person or a caregiver, there's a lot of studies out there that ask the person participating in the clinical drug study to help make sure that somebody takes their drug every day, or just, how are they doing throughout time. So, some of our sites have and organizations, get people together to say, this person doesn't have a family member, doesn't have a friend that they see all the time. Would you please be willing to be a support person for this person, or they can't participate? So that's one way. Another way is to join some of the meetings, support groups, talking about studies, making sure that the word gets out, because participating in studies is really important. We have to find the answers now. We can't have research studies that take 6 months to a year to finish, because the longer it takes to enroll in a study, the longer it takes to get to the answers.
All right, awesome. So let's open it up to the group. Anybody have any questions? Don't be shy. All right, let's continue down the list.
Oh, we've got one.
Oh, we got one in the back?
Yes, I'd like to know, what is the cost to me as an individual who may enroll in a study?
Nothing. Nothing. In fact, many of the studies have a participant stipend, and a lot of the studies, if you have to go from a distance to get there, they will pay for your travel. They will help you with lodging overnight to arrive at the study site fresh and on time in the morning. Makes you all want to do it, doesn't it?
So for complete disclosure, financially it doesn't cost you anything except for your time. So, it takes a certain amount of time to come to the clinic. We like to think that at least some folks enjoy it, but it is an investment of your time. The costs are paid for by the sponsor, but your time is involved.
Over here, Ruth.
So if your Center of Excellence is not participating in a particular trial, but you really would like to learn more about that trial and possibly go to that trial, the closest site, is that an option, or do you have to stick with whatever your own neurologist is offering?
I mean, we certainly have patients at Wake that go elsewhere to participate in studies that we're not directly involved in. Usually we kind of have some contacts that we can reach out to at other centers, if we need to like facilitate a connection there. And we can just, also sort of advise or guide our patients on, do we think that, that's a study for them? Do we think that they may be a good candidate? And, give them some guidance about it beforehand too. But yeah.
I love that question because from the advocacy side of it, that partnership between your medical team and your family is so important. So it's important to sit down with your neurology team, your social workers, whomever you work with to say, these are my goals. I would like to participate in trials and I need your help to make that happen. So unless you as the patient and the caregiver community don't have that conversation with neurologists, you may miss out on that. And so that's a very important question to ask all of your local teams to say, this is what I want to achieve. I need your help to make that happen for me and my family.
Great, thank you. And you're probably going to hear the same thing from myself, but I think it's important for everybody to hear, is that to participate in a trial, you're not locked into a certain location. We will all work together to get you information. So as Jenna just mentioned, if you're interested in participating, then find one of our organizations, find information, especially, for those of you who are here locally. You have a great community here. You're not locked in, though, to just this state. You can go to other locations. And as Dr. Scott said, in other locations, they have doctor-initiated trials that, may not be here. So really important to, get contact information so that we can help you to participate.
Excellent. Any other questions from the group? Oh, perfect.
How are you able to navigate the financial impact of Huntington's on your family, and what turning points did you realize that you had to make some changes, and what changes did you have to make in order to just pay the rent?
Very good question, and I know that that's something that many families face. I did have help from a very generous mother-in-law who was able to support us when needed. But what we also did was we ended up relocating to an area that had a lower cost of living. Massachusetts is famous for its very elevated housing market, so that was very difficult. We relocated to Pittsburgh. We certainly downsized. And lived frugally for quite a while. We were fortunate that Rusty did qualify for his SSDI right away, and because he had been an executive before that, that was a fairly good benefit to help with our expenses. But realistically, we relied on a lot of family, and we lived within our means. There was a period of time that I had to stop working so that I could care for him. And at that point, my mother-in-law was helping us out a great deal too in his SSDI.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. In my own experience, I found that proactivity was the name of the game there. Planning ahead, getting everything, all that infrastructure built around my mother before she was facing crisis. So that way when she was in that situation and she couldn't work anymore or needed the social support network and all of those resources, she already had them in place. And we had to start that journey very early when she was still capable of having those conversations in a way to represent herself. The message that I often tell people is don't wait for the crisis, because then somebody else may be making those decisions for you. So start early, start having those conversations with your care partners and the community so that you can start getting those ducks in a row as soon as possible. In the back, do we have a mic back there? Oh, no, I'll run over. Oh, thanks, Erica.
It's not so much, can you hear me? Oh, okay. It's not so much, I'm just going to comment on that. I have a husband who has Huntington's, and although I was prepared mentally, I think, ahead of time, things kind of came crashing down very quickly, and I didn't realize that I had to make decisions like where was he going to, he was in a behavioral center for about a month, and nobody there told me that assisted living was not covered by insurance. I had no idea. So getting on Social Security, I think, was the key. Allison Bartlett, the lawyer at HDSA, was wonderful in helping me with that. But it was chaotic at the least. And so luckily, my husband was also successful in planning for the future before he knew he had this disease. And so working with a financial planner, and also I had to get an elder care lawyer ahead of time because I thought we were going to have to do the committing as well, and we were almost there, but then things had changed. So tapping into the retirement is what we're doing right now to pay for his care, because it's very expensive and insurance does not cover any of it. So I'm fortunate right now that we can afford that, but for people who can't, I don't know what you do. It's very scary. So.
Yeah, and I found that navigating the probate court and kind of all of that change that came as a result of my mother's illness, it was exceedingly difficult. And the court-appointed attorney that represented my mother never responded to emails, never really supported me in the way that I needed it. So when I needed to make difficult decisions with respect to my mother's care or her finances, I was kind of alone. And I think if I had gone out and been more proactive at identifying an attorney that could have helped me through that process, we could have avoided a lot of the roadblocks that we faced. Things like life insurance policies and who the beneficiary was. When my mother passed away, the beneficiary was her late uncle. So we had to go through the whole process of opening an estate and going through probate court again after dealing with all of those challenges. So again, I think proactivity is the name of the game, and it's also hard because these are topics that are difficult for people to talk about at any point in their life. So, getting your ducks in a row early is tough, but it's well worth it.
I would just add that before things get to courts and to the legal profession, I think that all of the clinics that take care of people with Huntington's disease, we've all got social workers, all of whom we love. We love our social workers, and I think, at least for me, where there's questions, some of these questions about planning and what's coming, that sort of thing. I find our social workers to be a good first place to get some help, some navigation about where to go, which expert I need to see or I need to talk to for resources. So, social workers are a great place to start with some questions about planning.
Excellent. As an extension of this topic, question from the list. My loved one refuses to seek care. How do I get them to go to the clinic? How do I get them to go seek treatment? How do I get them to take their medicine? Any thoughts or strategies?
That is a challenge, and I fully understand that, and we have families that experience that. There are sometimes workarounds, like for example, we have virtual options, for people that may not want to or be able to leave the house, so we can do a televisit, video. I make exceptions and do phone visits, even, if we really need to, like whatever's in the best interest of like the individual and their family. So that would be something to ask about, like a particular clinic, if they have that option to do telemedicine.
I think in that respect, COVID changed a lot of things because it made televisits billable. So we did start and continue seeing a lot of our patients through televisits if they either refuse or are not mobile enough to get into the clinic. Helps that. And that's about it. As far as refusing care and perhaps compliance with medications, that's one of those really difficult situations that if you can enlist some family members who are trusted family members, speak to that person together, make this a condition of living in the community with you, that you need to stay compliant with your medications or stay free of behaviors. That can take you a step of the way, but boy, each person is an individual, aren't they?
So the other thing to think about is that, we really have a team. And, when you have somebody who it's very difficult to get them in is, come to the team. You're not alone. Just please remember you're not alone. And there are different ways that, for example, at Wake Forest, you've had a program for a long time. And I know a program is different than an individual. But these programs have stories. And the stories have different solutions, and everybody is different. And there may be something that they can pull, from the past to say this worked for this person. Let's try it. You're not alone.
I would just say, Dr. Testa.
Okay, here.
Well, I was just going to say, developing trust with a patient is real important and difficult. Can be difficult. It's unuseful to argue with a patient. So you can't just say you got to take this because I'm telling you got to take it. You have to enlist their. They have to agree with you, and so it's useful to try to find out. Well, what's bothering you? What's bothering you about your Huntington's, or is anything bothering you? Maybe not, but try to get to the source. If they can express a reason or what it is that they're feeling about not wanting to do this or not wanting to do that. Well, I don't want to take this medicine because I felt bad when I took that medicine, or But you try to understand from the patient what is their hesitation and what's bothering them, and then work with them from there. But it has to be from a level of they trust you kind of thing.
So we're going to talk a little bit more about this really important topic in one of the breakout sessions this afternoon with the North Carolina Care Network. But the only reason I am jumping in now is that the telehealth video, as you said, has been such a game changer. And I would plead with everyone in this room to lobby their representatives, because billable telehealth video is very likely to go away at the end of this calendar year unless the law is changed. And the people who make those laws don't listen to the physicians. They listen to you guys. And so that amazing advantage could be gone next calendar year if we don't incentivize people to change the law to lock it in permanently. And that's just something that this kind of group of people is uniquely able to speak to and incentivize the people you vote for and you vote into office to help you with. And we're not going to get it done on the physician side because they're just like, whatever, you're, taking care of your own interests. But they'll listen to you guys, definitely.
Yeah, to piggyback on Dr. Testa, vote for people who advocate for you. Okay, vote for people that will advocate for this kind of billing kind of thing, or taking care of video visits. Vote for folks that are on your side. Make sure you vote.
Yeah, and I'll add, just to wrap up this topic, some of the comments that Dr. Scott talked about, trust and building that relationship and kind of understanding where people are coming from. And forgive me if you were here last year and heard me talk about this analogy, but if you haven't heard of the analogy of the elephant rider, I'd like to just speak about it just for a few moments. And you can think of human beings as emotional decision makers, right? We're essentially an elephant with a driver on the top. The driver is our logical thinking brain, but the emotion is the elephant. And you can control that elephant to an extent, but if that elephant gets spooked, it's going to run off in a certain direction. So it's really important to consider where people are coming from and the emotional experience that they have that causes them to avoid seeking care. In my experience, it was fear. My mother was afraid. So understanding that fear will really help you to build those relationships and find somebody, that trusted individual that can help you navigate. And that's why this community is so important and why it's so important to stay engaged in it. All right. Any questions from the crew? Oh, over here.
So I've got two questions. They're a bit different. It's one thing when someone knows after they've been tested that they have tested positive for Huntington's disease. But is there a standard of care for centers of excellence if they do not deal with the testing process properly? And do centers of excellence, when they make mistakes, work together to fix them?
I guess that's for me. What do we do when we make mistakes? What we should do is to admit them and to try to understand them and fix them. If a mistake is made, it needs to be brought to somebody's attention. Do centers of excellence get together and talk about mistakes that they made? Not that I'm aware of. Should they? Possibly so. The centers of excellence come through, they're funded by the HDSA, and we all get together at the HDSA on an annual basis, at least. Could it be part of the convention to go over errors that people have made? I guess it could. I'm not aware of a mechanism.
I mean, that feels like a complete oversight. And I hate to be a bit aggressive about it, but that just doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. So I would hope that with the emphasis put on getting people to live happier and healthier lives, communication, I mean, that just seems, that just seems like it should be top of mind. And I know that this is not simply a centers of excellence issue. I mean, most American adults can't communicate very well in general. But, I mean, it feels like you share research, you share so much, be the poster child for how to change the way we do things here. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. My second question is the fall of Roe versus Wade has complicated family planning for a lot of people. And I think that this was what Dr. Testa was alluding to. But if anybody watches the news, we know what's happened in Alabama. And I understand that as citizens, it is our job to vote people in and out. Well, you don't vote people out, you vote people in. But our power is limited because there are issues with voting rights. So what can the HD community do, whether it's physicians, whether it's pharmaceutical companies who should have our best interest in mind? What is something that you all can do to help assist us? Because, infertility is one thing, but I think if people that voted for politicians in Alabama and potentially in other places around the country knew that it's not just about people who can't get pregnant, it's about people who are literally trying to stop the spread of a disease like Huntington's, maybe there would be a little bit more, open-mindedness and leeway, because that affects people regardless of a subjective political ideology.
I'm going to start by saying you're doing that right now, honestly, because there could be people in this room who feel the same way but don't feel as brave or as open to share that. So one, you're doing it right now. I would say that we as advocacy organization partners up here do a lot of that stuff behind the scenes, and we encourage people to advocate for themselves because it really is the community's voices that they care the most about, because it's those specific stories, that passion, that awareness that is really important. And so it was mentioned before about going to your representative, writing letters to your senators, state and also federal, sharing your stories outwardly, or even just supporting those who are sharing their stories. Social media is a huge tool for it. And it is really a volatile time right now. And we saw that, just like you said, in Alabama and they did pass a law recently to kind of overturn that and protect, but that's right now, and there are other states where that could happen. So it's really a collective tool for us to all raise our voices and make that mark and participate in any kind of advocacy that you can. And I think that that's really important. So I think it is a partnership, and a lot of us are doing that work ongoing right now.
And individuals, you can participate in a formal form of advocacy through the HDSA also. I mean, HDSA has an advocacy group, somebody that's on it's right behind you, and they meet virtually, I guess monthly, every couple of months. But there's certain legislation that they have advocated by contacting in a organized way legislators of different persuasions to get to sponsor bills. But anyway, it's an advocacy group that's part of HDSA, and you can be on that if you wish to, and any of your like-minded people.
Yeah, and I think we all understand that fear is a big motivator in this community, and it prevents people from sharing their stories. So if you don't share your story personally, I welcome you or invite you to share other people's stories, the stories that you hear today, the stories that you see online. Help get the word out about Huntington's disease, because most people don't know what Huntington's is. Even physicians have never seen it, never heard of it. They struggle. So, we really have to emphasize the human element, the experiences that we're all going through generation after generation after generation, and emphasize that with people. Because I think people are generally empathetic. They just don't understand.
I think, too, one of the things, the misnomers about IVF is that it's for fertility issues, and that's your point, is that it's not always for fertility issues. So I think changing the dialogue to say this is a family planning mechanism and choice for my quality of life. It is not necessarily for fertility. So I really encourage us all to better educate and kind of change that to not make it as much of a misnomer as it can be.
Okay, a slightly different question. Not everyone has access to a center of excellence. So for those family members that are seeing a doctor or a neurologist that doesn't really know Huntington's, like my father's doctor said, "You're my first Huntington's." How can the family, how do we get more information to the doctor or neurologist without stepping on their toes?
One of our jobs at the Centers of Excellence is to do outreach and education to not only members of the community, but also to physicians in the community. We offer ourselves as resources to some of those other physicians, and very often Dr. Susky will be on the phone with another physician for a while, or consult with the psychiatrists that are part of our clinic as well, to find out what the best thing is. In Pennsylvania, we have a Center of Excellence in Philadelphia and a Center of Excellence in Pittsburgh, which are on the two far ends of Pennsylvania. So there are a lot of people that drive 4 or 5 hours to get to an appointment for us, but we also reach out and try to educate the neurologists in their area, or say you can always give us a call. And that goes for rehab professionals too. We have OT, PT, and speech as part of our Center of Excellence. And when we send a patient to PT, we tell them they can always call back and ask to speak to Patty or speak to Carol, and we can give them some suggestions on creative goal writing for someone who has a progressive neurological disease, and that helps a lot. But we do reach out.
Yeah, and I think that also, in states where people have to drive 4 or 5 hours, it's important that when you do choose a physician or, whoever a healthcare worker, is that, don't be shy to say, I have information. So if you contact, organizations like HDSA or, different sites that are centers of excellence, you can ask them for information to take to your healthcare providers.
I also want to add that you're never stepping on their toes. Don't ever feel like that. This is your journey. You need to advocate for yourself. So whether you're connecting people to HDSA, we have resources at HDYO, HSG, the different centers of excellence. There is information out there. And again, you need to find a team of your medical team to support you and who want to learn. So never feel like you're stepping on their toes, because this is your journey.
And actually, that reminds me. I'm sorry. I'm putting on my other hat now. As a caregiver, I had a binder, and anytime my husband went into the hospital, ended up in ICU, ended up in different places, I would take that binder and leave it in his room. And it had information of, here's where you can get some Huntington's resources. Here's what I have seen in my in my husband's experience with Huntington's. These are some of his hot buttons. And that's how I educated those teams. I find that any healthcare worker who's worth their value will be open to the family member giving them some resources, especially if they're saying, "Hey, this is the first person I've ever seen."
I agree with all of that. Yeah, don't worry about stepping on a physician's toes.
Yeah, and I'd also recommend that you come to the talk that Dr. Testa is going to be giving this afternoon. One of the things that UNC and HD Reach are partnering on right now is a hub and spoke model that's kind of like a blended in-person virtual model to deliver services via a neurology clinic in disparate parts of the state. They can access that care at UNC. So there's definitely effort being deployed against that.
Oh, sorry. I was going to add, and I'm not sure what other folks in the room, what their take on organizations like this would be, but there are some telemedicine organizations. Like there's one called Synapticure, for example, and their initial focus was on ALS, and now Parkinson's, and potentially also Huntington's. But their organization is designed to sort of be a bridge to care in a way. That if they want people to have a local neurologist that they can engage with, but then they may have telemedicine support from an expert neurologist and other care team like social worker and other resources that can kind of bridge the gaps in maybe the care that they're able to receive locally. So investigating organizations like that, like Synapticure, may be options.
Add is that if we can all be a part of reaching those providers that don't know about Huntington's disease, that really is a great goal to have, because the more doctors, the more nurses, the more nurse practitioners that know about Huntington's disease, not only yourself, but the next person that walks in the room, similar to what Patty was sharing, some of your experience, is that if some of the people that you had gone to initially had known about Huntington's disease, maybe it would have helped Patty's family faster.
So I think we have time for maybe 2 more questions.
Just a quick addition to what you were just saying. You're talking about having this material available in these centers of excellence that you can take to your physician or your provider or whatever they're doing. What about putting some of this stuff online so anybody can pull it off and say, here, I need to take this to my person? Or it's really important for the patient and the family to know what to ask, because otherwise you're going to walk into that appointment and have no idea what you need or what you should be asking for. It's so much easier now to get that stuff online where people can grab it. And rather than having to go to the clinic and think of asking for something for the doctor that they dealt with at home, is there a way to put this stuff online?
A lot of it is. So through the different advocacy association, there's a lot of information on there and sections just for professionals to learn more. I think the challenging thing from the community's perspective is oftentimes you don't know what you don't know till you don't know it. So I think it unfortunately becomes a burden on the community's shoulders to have to be those educators and to advocate. So, but we are all here to help. If you have any questions, if you're on your way to a clinic visit, if you're thinking of what are some questions that we should ask, reach out to HDSA, reach out to HD Reach, reach out to Help for HD, reach out to HDYO. We're all here to have those conversations, because there may be things that you don't even think about that you really do want to know the answers to, because you get a short amount of time in the clinic, and you got to make the most of it, is kind of the unfortunate part of it. So let us help you prepare for those appointments.
The other thing is, I know you asked about clinical care, but I also want to put a brief plug in for research, because a lot of you have asked really great research questions. The same thing. Walk into your doctor's office and say, I need to know where research studies are. Or other experiences that many of us have had is that you ask your doctors to look online and vice versa, and sit down and have that conversation. What would be good for me? Get that information and have those talks with your doctors.
Yeah, and I would even take it a step further. Your local community would benefit from that education. Advocate for yourselves and for the people in your families with the people around you, your neighbors, first responders, the local police department. When my mother started getting sick, she was wandering around my hometown. Every cop in the town knew who she was and knew to keep an eye out for her. They didn't think that she was drunk. They didn't think she was on drugs. We had to go out and advocate on her behalf. So, it's a challenging thing, but it definitely is well worth it. All right, I think 10 minutes? Oh, we've got plenty of time then. We got 5 questions. All right, any questions from the group? Maybe one in the back? Okay. Oh, yeah.
What you were just saying, there are documents online specifically for police departments and specifically for beyond just doctors. And we're just starting to get to that point where police are starting to get involved. So I print it out, I bring it to the police station. It's something.
Okay. All right, I'll go back to the list. Let's see. How do I know when it is the right time to talk to my children about Huntington's disease?
I'm going to kick this one off. So first of all, shameless plug, but not so shameless. We have a brochure at our table about speaking to children about HD. There are several studies that show that making your child, your young person, a part of this journey actually empowers them, because oftentimes as things are changing in their environment, they're noticing those subtle things that we maybe think they don't. So there can be feelings of concern and embarrassment because they don't exactly understand what's going on. They may be thinking it's them, not the disease. And when you start to have those conversations and start that education process, they can become a part of the journey along with you and help support each other. And that's such an important tool when you're looking at family dynamics, but also the empowerment piece that we all want to instill in our children and in our family members. And it's tough. And there's not going to be a right time that fits for every family. It's not like, okay, it's their age 6, let's start talking about HD. It's when you feel comfortable, when you feel like the child is ready to start the conversation. And it is not a one-time conversation. We have a list of conversation starters based off of ages, because you want to be able to have the child be able to ask questions. So it's not HD is a neurodegenerative disease and your father has it and these are the symptoms, and kind of getting that whole list of things out there with one breath. It really is a slow process, and allow them to be in that space to know that they're safe and that they can ask those questions back and be a part of the conversation. It's also important to know that if you have multiple children, each child is going to deal with it in their own way. You may have one child who retreats, and that's okay. Be there and support them through that part of it. You may have another child who says, I want to learn more. Let me be a part of the conversation. I want to go to the appointments, and that's okay too. So just be prepared that it is challenging, but there are a lot of resources out there to help you, and we're happy to have those individual conversations as well. But get those social workers involved. talk to their schools too, to help educate them and make sure that their whole support system is knowledgeable about HD and can be there in case there are any emotional outbursts or behavior changes that happens as they start to cope and manage this. But it really is a family journey. So we are big advocates for including those children as soon as possible, but also when it's the right time for your family as well.
And I think the other big in this repeats back to the discussion that I had is I felt it was so important to create an atmosphere where the kids felt comfortable asking questions. So I would give them the basic information when we first learned of his diagnosis, but I always left that door open. And my kids came to me with questions. I didn't say, okay, you're 10 now, it's time for you to understand about this. And whenever kids are curious, and whenever they wanted to know something, they did. They did come and ask me. Also, I can't encourage more getting involved, how good it was to get my kids involved with the advocacy organizations, the NYA days, the HDYO, because that's where the kids got out there and they said, oh, there's other kids who go through this, and this friend can understand what I'm dealing with. And that was really important that we accomplished that.
I think that community building, when you think of, if anybody's familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that base level is that sense of community and safety. And that is what the advocacy community can provide, no matter what that looks like. There's such a safety in strangers who just get it, to know that you can say something to them and they understand it, and you don't have to re-explain what Huntington's disease is. And we also have a program at HDYO for ambassadors. We have 90 ambassadors from across the globe, now 28 countries represented, where some people just participate because they want to be a part of a group of anonymous people sometimes, that they just know that they're part of something. And then you have people who are super engaged and involved and then retreat as life is happening. But all of our advocacy groups do amazing jobs to connect to the community. So I really encourage your families to start encouraging young people to get more involved, but also respecting their boundaries if they choose that they don't want to as well.
A team is very important, whether it's the family that hovers around. A difficulty we have is my brother, upon finding out he had prior to him finding out he had HD, he moves to Reno where he knows no one. We are here in North Carolina trying to make decisions when he still has full control over his finances and everything else, more than the entire country away. So finding our network that can reach him when he has no friends, he stays in his home. Do you have any suggestions for us on how to best meet his needs when none of us are there to help him with his needs?
I can actually speak from a prior experience. I was a coordinator at UC San Diego, so I worked with our clinic. And we had people come to California to San Diego because the beach was there, and we actually had some of these situations. And I was saying earlier that people can participate in research by helping others. But one of the things that we established in our center was we established a care program so that if there was individuals like you, they could call in, and there were caregivers or individuals who lost their spouses but still wanted to help, and they actually did calls for people. They helped. They served as a support. So that's just one example, is looking for support people in that area where your family is far away.
And one of the things that we think about at HD Reach all the time is community activation. So we've been reaching out to community organizations that provide parachute support, or local churches or local schools or the first responders, and we're just trying to provide them some information to say, hey, you may come across these people. We expect that you would. If you do, here's some information about care that you can find and navigate that process. I would invite all of you to think about that community activation. Perhaps one of the ways that you can do is focus on the community around your brother. All right, I think we have time for one more question. Anybody in the back? No? Okay, then I think we can wrap up the panel. So let's give a round of applause to our panelists. Thank you so much for your support today. And I'm sure they'll be floating around for the rest of the day, so if you have any additional questions that you wanted to ask offline, feel free to harass them a little bit. And thanks again, everyone. We really appreciate your support.
I do have one question.
Yep, one question.
Isn't there a basketball game tonight?
Depends on what color you are. Just a couple of quick announcements before you get up and move around your chair. So don't forget the passports. Remember the little card. Go around and get all your little dots, because then you turn that in and you get a door prize. We are ready for lunch, so we'll be serving lunch. But I wanted to take a quick moment. I didn't make this announcement earlier, but you know, HD Reach relies on the support of our exhibitors that are out there, the relationships we have, the resources that we develop, but we also rely on contributions from individuals. And I wanted to recognize in particular Chris and Lisa Young, who established an endowment for us last year. And are adding to that endowment this year. But please know that we are so grateful, and we are wonderful stewards of those funds, and we utilize them in ways that sometimes we can't use other money. And so it's really important to us that you know that we are here. They established this endowment in Jackie Young's memory when she passed, and so we are very appreciative of that, and they are continuing to add to that fund this year. And I just wanted to say thank you to both of them very much. Thank you.
All right, so I think lunch is being served, so...
Remember what you ordered. That's helpful.
Yep.
Have it all separated, but we're serving it from the counter. There are tables, classrooms back here. You want to sit and be able to eat. There's also food around.
Yep. All right, so if you didn't hear Betsy, there are tables on both sides, over here in the back and over here. If you remember what you ordered, they're organized and will be served from the counter. Find a spot, plop down, and enjoy some lunch.